Did you know that a lot of Africans are poor because they don't understand how money works and how the economies of countries work? Let's dive in and let's explore this. So over here we have two countries. We have the UK and we have Zimbabwe. So in the UK side of things, you can see 80% of how the economy really runs is through financial services. That's where you have all your mortgages, you have all your loan companies, taxes, and so on. So there's nothing really tangible that is happening here in this economy. Now, when we take a look at Zimbabwe, we have the informal sector. Okay, this is where all the activity is happening, and it's about 32%, 33% of how the economy is running in Zimbabwe. Secondly, we have mining, and then just under that, we have agriculture. So I've just summarized this into the three main ones. So in a country like Zimbabwe, if you want to make money, you have to be focusing on the mining and agriculture. In the UK, things are different. You cannot apply the system of the UK to Zimbabwe. It's totally different. So here's the thing. Buying a house and buying a car are those type of things which are ingrained in us. It's in our DNA that if you buy a house, then you've made it. Or if you buy a nice car, you've made it. So here, take a look at this. So when you take here, the taxes in the UK, they're pretty much about 90% of all the activity. So we have income tax, national insurance, value-added tax, corporation tax, other taxes like council tax and road tax and so on. So you can see here that it's all tax, right? In Zimbabwe, we only have a few of these. And even then, right, we can't really implement this because we said that the sector here, which has a lot of activity, is informal. These are people who are just on the side of the road selling their stuff or selling their chickens, whatever they are doing, but they cannot really be taxed. And that is why sometimes the country is in a situation where some of the services that are supposed to be running efficiently are not running efficiently because there is no taxes that are being taxed on the people. Okay? All right. Anyway, so let's continue on here. So on average, when we look at success, we're looking at, okay, you know what? I've bought a retirement house. And if you look at some of the videos I'm seeing online, you notice that a lot of Zimbabweans are saying, oh, I built my retirement house. And these houses are massive. Okay, we're talking about 4 bedrooms and suite and so on. Now, is that really a good use of money? In my opinion, that is not a good way of actually using money, because you need to create an asset that generates money, and then that money that is generated is what you use to buy what? Everything else that you need to buy. And when you buy those things, you also should buy them in such a way that you're not being extravagant. Okay, you're being careful, because at the end of the day, you want to have cash flow. Having money coming in every day, even during retirement, is something that you really need. Just having a house in retirement is not enough. You need to have some sort of money coming in. Anyway, so as you can see here, as I mentioned, in our cultures, if you don't have a house, you're a nobody. Even when you get married and the family where you marry, you don't have a house, you're renting. They look down upon you. The moment you have a house, then things change. Okay, now you're a somebody. Okay. The second thing a lot of people look at is the cars. But I want you to take a closer look here. Look at the pricing of the house. 740,000. That's over $500,000. And these houses are being bought in Zimbabwe. Look at the cars, 155,000. If you go into Harare, right, especially towards the northern suburbs, you'll find that these cars are quite common. They're very common in Zimbabwe. So people now are really rushing to buy the cars to appear like they have made it, to appear that they have a lot of money. So what happens now is, when they've accumulated all this money, they buy the house, they buy the car. Of course, the next part is their son or their daughter needs to go to a private school. So that is where now you have all these schools in Zimbabwe, especially the private schools. They're fully booked. There's no spaces. And this is the truth. If you think I'm lying, please please leave a comment in the comments box below if that's not the reality. Try and find places right now for kids in school, in these private schools. They're fully booked. But anyway, I'm using St. George's here as an example. So on average, these private schools, they cost around 10,000 US dollars per year. This is a lot of money, because my question now is, what are you really getting from these children that are going to these private schools? Where are they today in our community? Where are they today in our society? Are they running businesses because they went to these nice schools? Are they in the government? Are they in places of position? Well, maybe I'm missing something, but I don't really see the highlights of the children that went to private schools. But what happens now is they go to these private schools and then they go abroad. Okay, so they end up in a system which is similar to the UK, where the financial services are the main area that really run the economy. Because these children from private schools, they're coming from a country that survives on mining and farming, but they don't want to do that because that's dirty work. Okay, they want to work in the financial sector. They want to be accountants, they want to be lawyers, they want to be secretaries and so on. So this is the problem. And while they're there in the diaspora, guess what happens? They start sending money back home. And the question now is, they're sending this money. Who are they sending them through? Well, in the most cases, it's through Mukuru. And now the question is, who owns Mukuru? Because now we need to establish where the wealth is. And by the way, this formula that I'm talking about people going to the diaspora and then sending money back home, because 3 billion is a lot of money. It's not just being done by kids who went to private schools, by the way. No. So please, I know, don't be upset. Everyone in the diaspora is sending money back home, including those that went to schools. I didn't go to a private school, by the way. Those who went to schools which are not private and so on. Everyone is just included in this 3 billion. But my point for this slide is, this 3 billion now that is being sent to Zimbabwe every single year, where is it ending up? Well, some of it is building these retirement homes. Some of it is paying fees for the children that are left behind to also follow on to the system of then coming to the UK or going to Australia and so on. So can you see how the cycle is continuing? Okay, where is it being broken? It can't be broken. And also the 3 billion here, some people are also sending money to buy what? To buy the expensive cars so that they can appear like, hey, I've come from the UK, I've come from America, look at me, look at my car, look at my house, look at my retirement house. So all this is done for aesthetics. But the reality is, if you really want to make money, you need to focus on generating money. And how do you do this? Well, you need to create an asset. So this asset now that you create is supposed to fund your lifestyle. So if you're someone that loves cars, then let this asset then buy the cars. But what most Africans do, they let their 9 to 5 buy the car. Do you see what I mean? And that is terrible. And that's a terrible way of looking at money. Okay. The other thing is, when you also look at the mindset, right? After establishing that Zimbabwe is a farming and mining country, what do? We do not invest in those sectors at all. You see this 3 billion that I was talking about that comes into Zimbabwe? It hardly goes into those areas, because right now as we speak, Zimbabwe has a deficit pretty much across the whole farming sector. There's a shortage of chickens, there's a shortage of beef, there's a shortage of milk, there's a shortage of eggs, there's pretty much a shortage of everything. As a matter of fact, a very good friend of mine was telling me that a lot of the things that are in Zimbabwe, they're actually shipped from South Africa. Can you believe that? Yet we have a country full of all these expensive cars and new neighborhoods that are built from scratch. Nice designs. In fact, when I grew up in the 80s, we never saw houses like this. Come on. I grew up in Belvedere. We never saw these neighborhoods popping up everywhere. But now, oh my goodness, there's neighborhoods everywhere. Everywhere. New houses, and they're expensive. We're talking about a minimum of 150,000 for a decent house. And this is cash. So you tell me, in a country which thrives or supposed to thrive on mining and farming, and yet nothing is being injected into those areas, even from the people in the diaspora. Why? Well, that is a very, very big problem. It's a very, very, very big problem. Anyway, let's continue here. So now we've established that the money is going through Mukuru. Who owns Mukuru? Whoever that person is, even if they get 2% of each transaction, 2% of 3 billion, that's a lot of money. That's a lot of money. Now let's talk about these cars. Who's behind the main Toyota dealer in Zimbabwe? Do you see what I mean? Who's behind InScore, where we spend all our money to buy pizzas on the weekend and buying all these things? Who owns that? Who owns BAT, the tobacco company? Who owns it? British American Tobacco, BAT. Who owns it? So now, when we look at Zimbabweans, or us Africans now, we do not have any assets. We don't. All we have are houses and cars. And what do these houses and cars do for us? Absolutely nothing. So the challenge now comes when you buy a house, you spent all your savings on a house. Now it's time to sustain your lifestyle. You start struggling. This is where you find people now going to these churches, going to these prophets, and they start blaming the evil spirits because things aren't working out. No, that's not the it's not the evil spirits that's the problem. It's your mentality towards money and wealth. Okay? In a country where agriculture is the top and mining, you have to be in those activities. Are you? If you're not, then you have a problem. Why are you expecting wonders in a country where its main income source is mining and farming? What else are you expecting? Like, really, what else are you expecting? And can you imagine this? We have people who actually go to high school and then go to university and then do a degree in accounting in a country which has majority of its finances or money is coming from an informal sector. Who do you want to do the accounting for? The informal sector, really? No, it doesn't work. Okay? So now you're going to find that a lot of graduates from these universities in Zimbabwe, they're going to come out of university and no jobs. Why? Because the informal sector doesn't really need those qualifications. Right? These are one-man bands. We're talking about these businesses, okay? They don't need you coming from uni to, to give them your expertise. No. But here's the thing. These same smart people, okay, we say Zimbabweans who are very educated, right? Imagine, you knowing for a fact that Zimbabwe is an agricultural mining country and it is mainly run, money is in the informal sector. You go and do a degree in accounting, or you do all these crazy degrees, right? You graduate knowing that this is how your country is, and then you say there are no jobs. I mean, who has a problem there? Who has a problem? In the meantime, you're saying there's no jobs. We have a country which has fertile soils, right climates for farming, and the minerals are there right now in the country, but you're crying that there's no jobs. Whose problem is it really? Now, if you think that, okay, this farming is so backward, it's so messed up. There's a country called Holland. Read up on it. Holland is one of the top countries in farming. It's a European country, by the way. Because I know sometimes Africans, we look at farming as, it's backward, it's stupid, you know? And sometimes when you speak to people about farming, they'll tell you, not everyone can be a farmer. Okay, not everyone can be a farmer, but everyone needs to go to the toilet after eating what the farmer has produced. So what are you going to eat? Who's going to produce it? This is where you find that a country like Zimbabwe gets aid from a country like the UK, who has less than 1% in farming. Now you ask yourself, how does that even work? How does that formula work? You are in a country where it rains and it's good for farming, and yet you get aid from a country that doesn't even do farming. Do you see where the problem is now? So Where I have a problem with a lot of Africans is once you've established this, you go to the diaspora, you start comparing the UK and Zimbabwe. The roads are bad. The electricity is bad. This is bad. The healthcare is bad. Okay. If you want to have a setup like the UK in terms of healthcare, then we need to have all the things in place. We need to have high employment in the country. And this high employment, then we need to take the taxes, or the government needs to take the taxes for then to put into the health system if you want to have a system like the UK. Otherwise, you go private. Secondly, if you want the roads to be nice, well, there has to be a lot of road tax being paid and a lot of other taxes. MOT, make sure the cars are proper on the road, making sure that these big lorries don't go on the messed up roads to cause potholes and all that stuff. But this comparison is not fair, in my opinion. Now, I'm not saying that there shouldn't be any improvements in Zimbabwe and whatever messed upness is happening is okay. I'm not saying that, but I'm just saying if you're going to compare economies, you're actually doing it wrong. And this is where the problem comes in. Okay, so let's continue on here. So now, remember, I said Zimbabwe has an informal sector. This informal sector now, we need to understand that this informal sector is not there to go anytime. It's going to be there for a very, very long time. It's very difficult for the government to really go and tax the people in the informal sector. Yes, they may try and enforce it here and there, but people are poor, okay? So they're trying to survive. So anyway, I've talked about all these things and you're probably thinking, wow, this is so depressing. What's the way out of this? Well, it's simple. Take a look at different cultures, okay? Because I remember I said, Black Africans, we have a problem. And it's a cultural thing. We love flashy things. We love flashy things. That's the problem. And I think it's a black thing because even in America, same thing. The Black Americans, they don't have assets. They all have all the fancy cars with big rims and Air Jordans. Anyway, so if you look at other cultures like the Somalis work like a team. Wherever they are, they have shops because they know that you don't really necessarily make your money through the 9 to 5. No, you make your money through the business because you can scale it up. And if you are really resilient, you can really make that business grow. Let's look at the Indians in Zimbabwe. What do? In different countries, in the UK, the Indians are so united and they work like teamwork. It's amazing. Look at Muhammad Musa. Look at other sectors in Zimbabwe, the shops and everything. Just the oneness. I love that culture of oneness, which we don't have us as the Black Zimbabweans. The Indians, they do it so well. And they've integrated into the culture so well, right? They're a part of us. We went to school with them and basically we're the same people, but the mentality is different. They are miles ahead of us. Miles ahead of us. With us now, what happens is in our country, you die and the wealth dies with you. Your child gets nothing out of it. They'll probably get an expensive car and pretty much that's it. Or you buy a massive house, which when the government wants their part of the tax, the kids can't even afford to then pay the government their share so that the house can be transferred ownership. It is crazy. So now I want you to think about this for a moment. When we were colonized, what do you think was happening? When Zimbabwe was great, which I'm sure you and me can agree that Zimbabwe once was great. It was amazing. The economy was amazing. Why was the economy amazing? It was because of farming. But today, are we focused on the farming? Are we focused on the mining? Absolutely not. And this is where the problem is. And this is not just a Zimbabwean problem. This is also happening in other African countries. We come here to the UK, we work, and then we buy a massive house or we buy a massive car. In the meantime, we're not building assets that generate money. So without that, we're in trouble. So now for Zimbabwe itself, if you're a Zimbabwean in the diaspora in Zimbabwe, instead of buying these massive houses, and by the way, these are solutions now. Instead of buying these houses and these expensive cars, well, it is very clear that the economy is based on mining and farming. Why don't you start buying assets for the mining sector? Tractors, irrigation systems, you name it, and all the technology that's needed in the farming sector for you to then start making in the money in the farming sector. And once you've made that money, then go and buy the cars, then go and buy the houses. Now, by the way, I'm not saying every single person is doing this formula that I'm describing. No, people are different. I'm just speaking in general, in a general sense. Okay? Don't compare what is happening in the UK to Zimbabwe. Totally different economies. Two, the other takeaway is focus on an asset that generates money. An asset generates money. And then buy and then fund your lifestyle with the money you're getting from the asset. Okay? Not the other way around. Don't use your 9-to-5 money to buy things that don't generate money. I've seen some people, they get a breakthrough in life, especially in Zimbabwe. They get a breakthrough in life. What do? They go and buy a stand. Now, do you know how ridiculous that is? That money that you got a breakthrough from, usually it's a one-off. It's a one-off. You've just made that money, you go and buy a stand. That opportunity of making money now is gone. Now you're stuck looking at the stand like this. You can start hating the country in that situation. You start blaming everyone. You start blaming even your aunties that died many, many years ago. Because you can't develop that piece of land, right? Or you buy a car that starts giving you problems. So you may be saying, okay, well, Mr. Ruwa Organic, how did you do it? Well, I invested all my money in my marketing business. Studio gear, cameras, everything, you name it. I mean, upwards of 20,000. But that investment has made me so much money, way more than what? The 20,000. And that's what I'm doing to buy whatever I need to buy. So on the outset, it may look like, oh, he's just bought a house, but he's telling us buying a house is nonsense. How is he doing? No. I'm saying, first of all, get your asset. That asset needs to generate money, and then start buying your houses, your cars, and everything else. That's what I'm saying. So until we change this mentality, we are going to be in trouble. Farming is not bad. Everyone needs to eat. So if you are spending so much time and energy building houses, buying land, blah, 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 you also need to think about how to generate or create a business that makes money. Yes, there are a lot of people out there who are very discouraging. They'll tell you, hey, not everyone can be a farmer, blah, blah, blah. Yes, that's fine. But you know what? There's a massive market in farming. Even me, I've stopped a lot of activities in farming because I can't meet the demand. And you know what? You're going to find people who are going to come and say, well, to make money in farming, you need someone in the government, you need connections. That's not correct. There's a shortage anyway right now. You don't even need connections to sell anything. Try and make an announcement that you have tomatoes and see what happens. You'll be flooded like this. Make an announcement that you have chickens dressed. See what happens. I have done it, and I've actually stepped back because I realized that, oh my goodness, I might just damage my reputation. Even right now, I cannot even advertise that I have chickens because I know I can't meet the demand. So I need to work on the assets. I need to work on refrigeration. I need to work on solar systems. I need to work on security. There's so many things I need to work on for me then to say I have a decent, successful chicken business because I can't meet the demand. I mean, I'm not talking about making 100 chickens a week. That's not enough. Okay? So you really have to think about Zimbabwe as a country that is based on mining and farming. You start looking at Zimbabwe through those lenses and realize that Zimbabwe has a massive informal sector. It's nowhere close to the UK. If you don't look at it that way, there's three things that are going to happen. Either you're going to be one of those people that are going to be complaining every day in Zimbabwe that things are so hard, things are so hard, things are so hard, things are so hard. Or you're going to be one of those people in the diaspora who are going to be keyboard warriors. You're behind the keyboard and you think you know how the economy is run, and you think you know how Zimbabwe needs to go, or you think you know how the direction of Zimbabwe needs to go. Finally, you're going to be one of those people that think you're cursed and nothing that you do never works. So anyway, these are my thoughts. What do you think about this? I'd like to hear your thoughts in the comments box below. Anyway, guys, this is a general discussion. I'm not really pointing fingers at anyone, and I'm not being personal with anyone. Share your thoughts in the comments box below, and let's keep it professional. Until next time, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care.